When I was 26, I became engaged to John, my college sweetheart. We had planned to marry a year later, but just a week before the wedding, he unexpectedly eloped with my stepsister, Mia. They left only a letter behind, where John revealed he had been having an affair with Mia ever since our engagement and had fallen in love with her. He claimed it would be unfair to marry me, leaving me devastated and heartbroken. The aftermath was difficult to navigate. John's parents, embarrassed by their son's actions, covered the full costs of the wedding that would never take place. Meanwhile, my family, especially my stepfather, who had raised me since I was young, was furious. He even considered hiring a detective to find John and Mia to demand an explanation. Mia's history of tormenting me made the situation even more complicated. Mia had been a constant source of distress in my life since we were young. After our parents married, she made my childhood a battle, with years of bullying that continued through school. Despite our parents' best efforts to intervene, Mia remained defiant and unapologetic. Her behavior worsened in adolescence, marked by rebellious actions like smoking, drinking, and eventually legal troubles that led to her being sent to a rehabilitation center for troubled teens. My parents had hoped this would correct her course, but it felt like a never-ending cycle of turmoil. After years of separation, during which I thought little of Mia, she unexpectedly reappeared in our lives. She and John, now facing financial struggles, sought work at the family-owned 60 shoe factory, a position Mia had once been meant to inherit. The sudden return of both, seeking help from the very family they had abandoned, stirred up mixed emotions. Mia had transferred to a new school by our sophomore year, close to her rehabilitation center, and moved in with her aunt. Over those years apart, I rarely thought of her. Despite my parents' invitations to visit, I always declined. After Mia left, her friends, who had always sided with her in the past, started ignoring me, which unexpectedly made my high school experience much more peaceful. Without her presence, the constant bullying stopped. When Mia returned after we graduated, she immediately apologized for her past behavior. Her demeanor seemed genuinely calmer and more mature, prompting me to forgive her. We both went off to college in different cities, only returning home for holidays. During these visits, I noticed a significant change in her attitude. While not warm, her demeanor was at least no longer hostile. It felt like a step in the right direction. Our parents noticed the change too, but they wisely chose not to push us to reconcile further, understanding the complexities of our past. A year into my relationship with John, I invited him to Thanksgiving dinner at my parents' house. It was during this visit that I first noticed Mia taking more interest in our family gatherings, particularly in conversations with John. This was unusual, as Mia had always kept her distance. Her newfound warmth towards him raised my suspicions. When I confronted her about it, asking if her sudden efforts to engage with me were somehow connected to John, she dismissed my concerns with a laugh. She explained that John's stories about his close relationship with his siblings had inspired her to mend her bond with me. Mia confessed that for years, she had blamed me for her troubles, but she now realized her actions had been her own fault. Her apology seemed sincere, and I, moved by her newfound maturity, decided to forgive her completely. In time, we began to rebuild our relationship. We met regularly and engaged more at family gatherings. By the time I got engaged, Mia and I had reached a place where we could communicate civilly, even if we weren't the closest of friends. She had even met John before our engagement announcement and was actively involved in the wedding preparations. Our relationship had healed considerably from the years of animosity, and everything seemed to be going well. But then, just 1 week before the wedding, both Mia and John disappeared without a trace. The betrayal left me crushed, and the pain was unbearable. In the weeks that followed, I focused on work and sleep, trying to avoid thinking about the heartbreak. But then, Mia sent me a postcard from California. It was clear from the message that not only was she rubbing her happiness with John in my face, but she wasn't sorry for what she had done. That's when I realized, Mia had never truly forgiven me for the past. She had used our renewed friendship to get closer to John, all while plotting this betrayal. I sought therapy to cope with the pain and to deal with the trust issues that began to emerge. Mia's postcards continued to arrive, each one flaunting her life with John, but I ignored them all. Eventually, they stopped. Our parents, disgusted by her actions, severed all ties with her, including cutting her off from any inheritance of her father's 60 shoe factory. Despite my academic background in history, my father offered me the opportunity to take over the factory, which Mia had once been poised to inherit. I accepted the challenge, and after several years of hard work, I was promoted when he retired. Managing the factory successfully brought me a sense of fulfillment, and I had mostly moved on from the turmoil of my past. Then, one quiet weekend at home, I was startled by a frantic doorbell ringing. Thinking it was my pizza delivery, I opened the door, only to find Mia standing there, looking disheveled and out of place. She was dressed in worn clothes, visibly thinner, and appeared as though she hadn't been eating well. It was clear she was there to ask for help. Mia didn't waste any time. She quickly explained that she and John had fallen on hard times and were struggling to make ends meet. However, as much as I could see the desperation in her eyes, I had already made up my mind. Despite everything that had happened, despite the betrayals and the pain she had caused, my answer would be no. There was no way I could help her, not after everything she had done. Seeing her there on my doorstep, broken and humbled, brought an unexpected sense of closure. After all the years of hardship, betrayal, and eventual success, I had found a place of peace in my life. Mia and John were no longer part of my world, and I had no intention of letting them back in. After John lost his job months ago, he fell into a downward spiral, choosing to numb the pain with alcohol instead of looking for new employment. Meanwhile, Mia, having quit her job as a personal assistant when they moved in together, found herself unemployable due to a significant gap in her resume. Word spread through our family that I had taken over the 60 shoe factory after our father's retirement, and it wasn't long before Mia turned up at my door, hoping I would offer John a job. She arrived looking anxious and desperate, apologizing profusely for her past behavior. She claimed to have come directly to me, bypassing our parents, because she knew I was kind-hearted and believed I wouldn't turn her away in her time of need. Her audacity to assume I would help her after everything she had done was almost laughable. I could only shake my head in disbelief at her entitlement, and I bluntly told her that I don't employ cheaters. With that, I shut the door in her face, half willing to call the police if she refused to leave. Thankfully, she departed without further incident. Once she was gone, I immediately contacted my parents to inform them about her visit. They had already heard rumors that Mia was back in town, though, oddly enough, without John. Our small town had a tight-knit community, and news spread quickly. It didn't take long for us to learn that Mia had been staying with a high school friend, likely the one who had tipped her off about my new role at the factory. A few days later, Mia decided to pay a visit to our parents, perhaps hoping to garner sympathy or support by portraying me as heartless. However, she miscalculated. My father, firm in his decision, made it clear that the 60 shoe factory was now under my control, and I had full autonomy in making decisions. My mother reminded Mia of her deceitful past, emphasizing that she had forfeited any right to our help, especially after sending those taunting postcards. Mia tried to defend herself, claiming she had changed, but our parents remained unmoved. They asked her to leave, no longer willing to associate with her. Mia reacted poorly, throwing a tantrum and accusing them of always favoring me, labeling me the golden child. This only reinforced their decision to cut ties with her. In one last effort to make herself heard, Mia confided in my father, expressing her hurt over feeling neglected and overshadowed by me. She argued that I seemed to be his only concern, dismissing her entirely. In response, my father reminded her that he had been more lenient with her than most parents would have been. But Mia wouldn't accept this. She insisted that it didn't change her situation and that she had been robbed of opportunities, chief among them, the chance to run the 60 shoe factory, a position she believed was rightfully hers, but that I had allegedly flaunted. She even brought up John's decision to be with her over me, questioning why she was the one facing consequences for his actions. She claimed that the postcards she sent were sincere attempts to apologize, not calculated schemes to upset me. This revelation stuck with me. Despite everything, I still couldn't shake the feeling that she believed the 60 shoe factory should have been hers. Her anger towards me was rooted in this belief, though I knew her exile was not my doing. I never pushed my father to exclude her. It had been his decision alone. Still, I understood how she could view things differently. As much as I had moved on from the bitterness of the past, I couldn't help but sympathize with Mia. Her situation, coming to me for help after everything that had happened, must have been incredibly difficult for her. I regretted my harshness, especially now that I had everything and she seemed to have little. Still, I couldn't offer her the financial assistance she sought, nor could I offer her a job at the factory. All I could give her was my sympathy, though I knew it wouldn't ease her pain. The irony of it all wasn't lost on me. The 60-shoe factory, once meant to be her inheritance, was now mine. The success I had achieved in managing the factory made me question whether it was a form of revenge, a bitter reminder of the betrayal I had endured. Imposter syndrome crept in, and I wondered if I truly deserved this success. Refusing to employ my ex-fiancé and my stepsister, who had run off together, felt difficult, especially now that they were both in need. The advice I received on the matter was divided, leaving me more conflicted than ever. After talking things through with my parents, I felt more at ease. They reminded me that we had done everything we could for Mia. If she wasn't ready to change, there was little more we could do. My father had always intended for Mia to take over the 60-shoe factory if she had shown responsibility and been a supportive member of the family. But her actions had excluded her from those plans. The decision was made, and there was no going back. It was unreasonable to expect anything different under the circumstances. A week passed since Mia's visit, and I had hoped that would be the end of it. But today, she showed up unannounced at my workplace, causing a scene. She knew the layout well, having grown up around the building, so she bypassed security and positioned herself right outside my office, loudly accusing me of stealing the family business. She claimed I had played the obedient daughter, framing her for childhood bullying to solidify my status as the favored one. She insisted the 60-shoe factory should have been hers and accused me of keeping her out of it because I was jealous of her relationship with John. According to her, I couldn't stand not being the center of attention and had turned our parents against her. When I heard the commotion, I went to investigate. I tried to calm the situation, but Mia didn't listen. Security had to escort her out, and I immediately called my father to discuss whether we should involve the police. He was furious but advised me to go ahead. The police found her near the building and charged her with trespassing and disturbing the peace. Though the offenses were minor, they were still damaging to her record. When I told my father, I expected him to be upset, but he was only exasperated. He had grown weary of dealing with Mia's antics, which were often self-inflicted. 5 days have passed since the incident, and Mia seems to have returned to California. We initially thought she might retaliate following her arrest, but my father discovered through some inquiries that she had been seen at the airport. It was a relief to think that she might stay away for a while. Still, I'm not optimistic about her sorting things out with John or finding support elsewhere. I can only hope that they find employment and become self-sufficient, as their return could only mean more trouble for everyone involved. For now, I am simply relieved to have a break from the chaos.